I'm Chris Clark. I'm the President and CEO of the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce, and today we're joined by Councilmember Robin Benning. Councilmember Benning, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. It's my honor and pleasure to serve the people of Queen Creek, and I'm really excited to be here to help the Chamber continue to grow Queen Creek and to make this community the best place in the Southeast Valley. Packed up the U-Haul and headed out here, and then of course we discovered that we couldn't afford an acre or horses. So we ended up buying a house in Tempe, and then things changed. But it took until about 2004, I realized that most of my architectural work at that time was here in Queen Creek, and I was driving out here every day from Tempe, which was an easy drive. You know, the traffic is going the opposite direction, so it was really relaxing. But at some point I just said to my wife, we should really just double down and go see what we can do in Queen Creek. And we found a nice lot and built a custom home, and we've been in Queen Creek ever since. That's sort of my backstory of how I got here. As soon as I arrived in Queen Creek, I joined the Leadership Institute and started attending council meetings and planning commission meetings to find out more about what was going on here. I wanted to be involved. I didn't really think about being elected. I thought that was more than I would want to do, but I really wanted to be on the planning commission. And after several attempts to fill vacancies, the vacancy for the council came up when Mayor Barney decided that he was going to run for mayor instead of being just a council member. And you remember that day, I'm sure, as well as I do. We were in the council chambers and they made the announcement, and I turned to congratulate you, thinking that you had been selected. And then in my head, I heard in super slow motion, Robin Benning. Wow, it's me.
And what year was that?
That was in 2009, December 2009. Of 2009.
And then you ran again?
So I ran for actual election in 12, re-election in 16, and now running for re-election for the second time in 2020.
Very good. And so tell us about your experiences on various boards and commissions. What have you done as part of council?
So even before I was on the council, I was one of the formative members of the Transportation Advisory Commission. That's where I sort of got my feet wet after the Leadership Institute. I did that from 2006 until 2009. Since I've been on the council, let's see, so my number one assignment that I've had year over year was Central Arizona Governments, which is the Council of Governments form of government that addresses the needs of Pinal and Gila County. Queen Creek is in a unique position because we're in both Pinal and in Maricopa. So Maricopa Association of Governments addresses our major needs, but I always felt that it was really important to stay connected with our neighbors to the east. It's so important that, you know, that old saying, all boats float or sink together. So for me, it was really critical to be involved and engaged in Central Arizona Governments. Not only have I served on that committee now for 10 years, but I've been the regional chair twice, the regional assistant chair, and secretary treasurer 4 times. So I've been very involved. In fact, last year was the first year that I was not a member of the executive board. So that's my number one thing. I've also continued to serve on and off in other committees, East Valley Transportation, which is part of the East Valley Partnership. I've served on the Pinal Regional Alliance, I think it's called, Pinal County Alliance, which is a partnership of Pinal County governments that work together. And this year I'm excited to return to the Parks and Recreation Committee, because that's really always been a love of mine, something that's really important.
Good. What do you see then, based on your experiences and your running again, what do you think are the top challenges facing Queen Creek right now?
Well, the number one priority for a town like Queen Creek is always going to be public safety. Fire and police, not necessarily one before the other, but that's something that's very, very important. Roads are important, and we've made huge strides in that area. $210 million in capital improvements dedicated over the next 10 years to continue to improve the roads. I remember when I first came to Queen Creek, there was one traffic light at the corner of Ellsworth and Ocotillo, and now we have over 57, I believe, and we've widened many streets. So roads are important, but we've made great strides. Now it's time to focus on some of the other needs. So we're building our fire department up. We're right now constructing stations number 4 and number 5, which will give us really great coverage over our entire community. And then, of course, we made the commitment to look at policing as Queen Creek had matured to the point where we felt it was really time to take policing into our own hands. It really was time for Queen Creek to look at a police department that could be us, that could look like us, that wasn't coming in from another part of the county. And so, we have moved forward with opening an application process for a new police chief to start off our program, and we're really excited. Coming up next week, we'll be starting to look at the applicants, and there'll be an interview process. I believe that they've narrowed the list down to a shorter list, although I'm not exactly familiar with who the applicants are and how many. I know that we had over 100 applicants when we opened. So we're really excited to move in that direction, because policing really is community focused. And community policing is something that our residents have asked for over and over again. And then, not to leave out, parks and our parks program are really important to me. Those are things that maybe in the past we had to push off into the future because we were concentrating on roads, we were concentrating on utility acquisitions, and now we're in a better place where, as we come out of this recession, our residents frankly are looking for more things to do in their own community, and so we continue. We opened a brand new park last year, the Mansell Carter Oasis Park, which has been a huge success between the splash pad and the fishing lake and the skateboard multi-use facilities. It's really being loved by all our residents, and we're really excited about that. And now we can start to move in the direction of planning maybe 10 years out. What's the next thing for Queen Creek? What are the things that our residents want? And without getting into details, those are really my concentration.
With the lockdown that we just came through, how do you view that as affecting the Queen Creek budget? In other words, how are we going to come out of that, and how's that going to affect your plans moving forward?
So for Queen Creek, we've really been lucky because we do have a little bit higher than average. In fact, we're one of the 3 highest average family income, or average household income communities in the state. And that means that we weren't as badly as affected as some other communities. However, the truth is that everybody's suffering. You know, whether you work in food service or whether you work in another service industry. I mean, a lot of our local residents do work in small businesses, and small businesses obviously were hit the hardest. They just don't have the pocketbook to last out an extended period of zero activity, and that's been a struggle. Fortunately, we were able to allow businesses to continue on a limited basis. So, for example, drive-through and takeout restaurants were able to keep going. But the truth is that it was really tough, and we've all suffered through sitting at home and being bored and not being able to go out to movies and to restaurants and to enjoy each other's company. That's been hard. The governor, I think, has done a fairly decent job of slowly opening without getting into that big political show. I think it's really important that we continue to wear masks, continue to social distance, continue to maintain smaller groups and protect each other, because we're not out of the woods yet, but at the same time we have to allow our community and our businesses to continue to stay open, because we without money, without sales, we can't pay our employees, and that's really important. I like to call myself a small business person. I work in a firm with 10 employees, and we would not have been able to last much longer without some relaxation. We're still struggling, but we've been lucky, and the town itself is in terrific position. We have a very good reserve set aside to protect us in these kinds of struggles. Fortunately, having gone through the recession of 2006 to 2009, we knew when it started. We could see what was happening. We were able to make adjustments right away. We've had to cut the budgets fairly rigorously down by about 10%. We haven't had to lay people off. In fact, I'm proud to say that what we are doing is just not filling vacant positions, and that's really important, because it means that the organization continues to be able to provide the services that people want. Whether it's fire or utilities, there have to be employees on the job ready to respond when somebody has a need. And so we've done a really great job with that.
You mentioned that parks were important to you, and continuing with the parks plan. So you voted in support of the parks plan going forward.
Yes.
Do you intend to continue with that? And where does that money come from for those parks?
So I think what's really critical when you think of parks, we have to remember that parks are just one of the programs that we're providing to our residents. And so we do something like a survey, or we go through a big study where we try to determine what our residents want. And then we have to come back. I mean, the hard job of being an elected official in a community is that you have to constantly think about what are the things that we want, that we desire, and yet what's fiscally possible. You know, we can't build some of the things that some people really want, because either the cost is very high or the day-to-day operations is exorbitant. And so one of the things that we hear about pretty frequently is a community swimming pool. And frankly, if it was up to me and the money was unlimited, I would absolutely support a swimming pool. But in today's economy, I think that a swimming pool is just a lower priority, and so we work together as a council. This isn't a decision that one person gets to make by themselves. It's not like some governments that you hear about back east, where a strong mayor gets to say, I'm the mayor and I decide that we're going to have a swimming pool. What we look for is opportunities to partner with our local businesses and try to build infrastructure such as parks over a long time. We do have a fairly steady revenue stream, you asked about that, which comes from development and impact fees, which is set aside money from each new building permit that we're able to use to slowly improve our recreation and parks facilities. But you have to look at, again, there's upfront cost and then there's continuing M&O, and we're just not at a place today where we can say unlimited resources pointed into this one area. In fact, the result of that study was we're probably looking at the next big park construction is about 10 years away. And that seems about right. We built the Desert Mountain Park in about 2005, and then we designed and built Mansell Carter Oasis Park in 2018. And so we're really looking at our next big kind of lift in that area would probably be in about 10 years, in the later part of the 20s.
Going from parks then to transportation, there are those who want all of the roads built right now. Tell me why we haven't built more roads. What are the limiting factors? And how do you envision the capital improvement plan moving forward?
Well, one of the things that's really great about our transportation system in Queen Creek is that we try to the greatest part, shift. Let me start that over again. Well, what we try to do with transportation is we try to do a pay-as-you-go system so that new development builds the roads as that development happens. And so we see a lot of new development coming in, and then we're able to use either impact fees or direct contribution from the builder, where the builder builds, for example, the half-street improvements in front of their development. That's really an important way so that the taxpayer isn't paying the cost of road widening and improvements. At the same time, we do get some impact fees for transportation, and we try to use that to pay for some of the larger sort of regional programs that are important. But at the same time, we can't build everything. The latest numbers I've heard is that 1 mile of a 6-lane road costs between $20 and $25 million. By the time you build the road, you put in the utilities and include the sidewalks and landscaping and all the things that make up a complete street. So we're working on trying to do those as it makes sense. One of the things that we've really concentrated on is trying to build some of those important arterials that will help our residents get to and from their homes, but also to and from shops and from work. So that means connecting to our regional network of transportation. At the same time, we've learned that if you build a 6-lane road, people will speed. People will use that road not to get to your local business, but to get through Queen Creek at 60 miles an hour. And so we have, we try to find that balance. What are the right things? I think what we're doing right now, building the north-south corridors, such as Signal Butte and Meridian, are really helping our residents and helping our neighbors in Santan Valley to get to the freeway and then to get to their work, knowing that on the way home they're likely to slow down and stop in Queen Creek and shop at some of our businesses and generate some sales tax revenue, which is really a great thing for the community. So it's really finding that balance. We certainly don't have the dollars, and we certainly don't have the desire to just build every road to 3 lanes in each direction tomorrow. We simply couldn't do it. But what we have done is, we have the Ellsworth Loop corridor, which has been developed really well. We're building rigs right now with the partnership from Maricopa County. So we have a new east-west connection that comes all the way through the town. We're looking forward to the day when Gilbert builds out Ocotillo Road through their new park and connects. So we'll have another way to go east-west. Germain is in pretty good shape. As I said, Sauceman dead ends at the airport, so that's not really a very good north-south, but we're widening and working on Power Road, trying to link that up. And then, of course, Signal View to Meridian. Those are the next 2 big ones. The other thing that I want to mention is I was involved as part of the East Valley Transportation Stakeholders Group in working with some of our legislators. Particularly, I want to recognize David Cook, whose work was instrumental in getting the funding for the SR 24 moved up so that we could build out the extension of the 24 from Ellsworth all the way to Ironwood, which really helps our residents. It also helps the residents of Santan Valley. And I always say, people will ask, well, why are we building roads for the Santan Valley residents? And I say, because we're building a network, and part of building a community is including helping your neighbors to be able to access the things. We're doing really well, and Mesa and Gilbert and Chandler have spent the last 20 years building their roads out so Queen Creek could use them. Now it's our turn to help our neighbor Santan Valley and Florence to be able to move the people through our community. And of course, as I said, they'll come back. They will shop, they'll go to our movie theater, they'll eat dinner at our restaurants, and soon we'll have more for them to do as some new and exciting entertainment venues are coming online. And we're really excited about that, again, drawing more people into Queen Creek and having them spend money.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Benning. We appreciate your time and your thoughts on those areas, and good luck in the election.
Thank you, Chris. It's my honor and pleasure to serve the people of Queen Creek.